Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV. Listen, we are about to get into a pop culture chat. And if you are liking what you see, please, please, please hit that like button. Hit that like button. Here are my channels. These are the two channels you can subscribe. Listen, I want to. This is partly not usually my content because I usually don't talk about a whole lot of stuff that's going on outside of the United States. But this particular case, I thought I would talk about. I definitely thought I should talk about. And because it was just sad. It's just sad and unnecessary. And it's that thing about hate. When people that is so ingrained in people and then they want to cover it up with scholar. But anyway, trigger warning. This video may discuss issues dealing with suicide, domestic violence, mental health issues. If you need assistance, here are the numbers coming across the screen. So I wanted to be fair. And when I talk about this, listen. On the 18th, we learned that a Cambridge professor named Jason Arday was found deceased in his home. And I heard that news and I really didn't like rally around it. I really didn't pay much attention to it. And then I started to hear the controversy around it. I started hearing the controversy around it. And then I was like, let me go look this up. Let me go look this up because I can't believe I'm hearing what I'm hearing. All right. So here is Jason Arday. And what I found out about him is that he'd had a very interesting backstory, and also that he was the youngest Cambridge professor as far as being of color. But I found out that he was under investigation, or someone had raised it. Had started, and I can't get to where that if they had an official investigation or did this person start the investigation. But there's this man named Nathan Kaufness. I think is what his name is. Nathan Kaufness. And this man in his Substack did a I don't even know if hit piece about this young man, and particularly talking about, oh, well, he was a DEI hire. And for a certain segment of our population, DEI seems like a curse word. They get all up in arms. They think because their skin that they have no melanin in their skin, it makes them better. It makes them superior when it's a regressive genetic trait. So let's look and see what this young man, he don't even look like a young man to me. So Nathan Kaufness, back on July 21st, 2026, he wrote in his Substack, DEI fraud and cover up at Cambridge. University refuses to investigate DEI stars plagiarism. Now, I always find this to be fascinating because I didn't know too much of this case. And my first time when I pulled all this information up, I was like, I bet you he worked for Cambridge and they fired his little mousy tail. That was the first thought I had, and it was a correct thought. But this is what he says, and I don't want to go in on everything, But I do want you to see his Substack, and I may make it bigger for you all. Hold on. I want you to see, this is the information that he had placed on his Substack talking about this professor. And he goes in under this. But the thing that caught me is that he was going over he was picking this man's dissertation, and it seems like he was picking this man's life apart, you know? And he claims that he was investigating claims because little mousy men always do that. Because they're little mousy men and they don't have the fortitude to do some of the things they can't believe that anybody else can do. Now, am I saying that what he's saying is true or not true? Ladies and gentlemen, I do not know, because again, this is happening across the pond. And I will get to you why this story affected me. So he goes through his Substack, and you all can go to his Substack and read. But he says here that I ran Arday's 2015 PhD dissertation through the plagiarism detection program, CopyLeaks. I found substantial overlaps with previously published work, particularly a dissertation submitted by Paula Zodwak Myers in 2009. She received her degree from Brunel University in London, where she's currently a reader in education. The chart below compares passages from Arday's dissertation and Myers' dissertation. From literally the first page of the introduction to his dissertation, which starts at page 17 of the manuscript, Arday relies heavily on Myers for key ideas and arguments. Many passages are lifted with minimal editing, sometimes retaining copy editing mistakes. And so then he goes just to go over the stuff that was going on. And he's highlighted it and he's done all this. So this was the article that jumped off everything, right? From Little Mousy Man here. So beginning in July 2026, Jason Arday became the center of a media storm and academic investigation regarding claims of plagiarism. Critics and media reports revealed that over 100 passages in his 2015 PhD dissertation were lifted nearly verbatim, word for word, bar for bar, from an earlier thesis published in 2009. From that, there was a firestorm in UK media. And from what I understand, from for 10 days straight, there were at least almost 200 articles written on this man. There were several newscasts and news reports talking about this man. And they also sat here and let this mousy man get on news program after news program spouting his ideology. Now, what is his ideology? He has this eugenics, race-based type ideology, because again, he thinks because he has no melanin in his skin, he thinks that he is the superior creature. He thinks that if you take him and put a black man with the same credentials, intellect, everything the same, he believes that he will wipe the floor of him. I say to that, if everything was being equal and all the interviews were done and you couldn't see either man, he would lose out every time. He will lose out every time. Mr. Mousy here, Nathan Coffness, he would lose out every time. And he knows that. So he uses his the one thing that he knows he has is his privilege of being a white man to then take his foot and put it on the necks of everybody else. And again, you remember I told you he has spent so much time focusing on this man. He has spent so much time focusing on this man that he's about to lose his job. And according to his Substack, he says, I was just suspended by Ghent University. They will almost certainly fire me. The decision was made by, he tells who it is, I think that says Rector Peter Petra, something, something, a former leader of the Green Party. And I'm not familiar with UK politics and UK party, so I don't know exactly who that person is. I don't know who that person is and what that person's importance is in UK politics. But what I do understand is this. That they have hounded and hounded and hounded this man until eventually he is no longer here. Now, I don't have confirmation that he pruned himself from the timeline, but I think that that's the consensus that people are talking about. And so let's go through a quick timeline of events. I'm just going to read them out for you. So, historical for the he had a historical appointment. He was appointed as professor of sociology of education at the University of Cambridge at 37, making him the youngest Black professor in the university's history. That was already, people was upset about that. Because you do have, again, like the little mousy men of Nathan Coffness, they get upset about things like that. They say it's because of DEI that you got that position. That is what they say. Because again, if we were going to test his theory, all interviews, everything should be done blind. You can't see the race of the person. All you could do is listen to them speak. With, show their resume, listen to them speak, and see who gets the job. And I guarantee you, every time, little mousy man Nathan Coffness will lose out every time. And you know what kills me? Because he's about to lose his job. But can you imagine if someone would just mind the business that pays him? And this is why I say a lot of times, for me personally, I think racism is a mental illness. Because there's no way that you should be upset and worried about what somebody else is doing in that manner. And what I mean by this, had he done the job that paid him, he would still have the job that pays him. But he refused to do it. He had to be in the business because he got upset because he heard the youngest Black professor in the university's history. Not the youngest professor in the university's history. It was the youngest Black professor in the university history. Youngest African professor in university's history. Youngest Ghanaian professor in university's history. However it was written. But the part that this young man was a person that had more melanin in his skin than he did, that upset him. Now, it says there were some early academic inquiries in 2023 And Emeritus Professor Dave Harris contacts Arday regarding methodology concerns in a 2018 published study prompting minor corrections to the public work. It is my also understanding that the University of Cambridge had cleared him of plagiarism in the UK. And so this is where I'm going to go to Al Jazeera. Let me share my screen. And they have a video. Let me see if I can. Here it is.
Between the two headlines, a story unfolded that is neither unique in the UK or unique to the UK. And right now we're at a visual.
Hold on, because I don't think you heard the first part because I thought I was sharing when I was actually going through my my slide. Hold on.
Jason Arday, the youngest ever Black professor at Cambridge University, was found dead in his apartment in London on Friday. Between the two headlines, a story unfolded that is neither unique in the UK or unique to the UK. And right now we're at a visual held in Arday's memory in Trafalgar Square in London, where Arday's friends, some of whom are MPs, journalists, activists, some of his students at Cambridge, and of course his family, made statements earlier.
The vicious media campaign drove him to his death. But it wasn't just a campaign against a professor, it was a campaign against all of us.
Every human life has a purpose. Imagine what might happen if we're all united in the just cause of valuing human beings equally.
But he said, they're hounding me to death, and I cannot see a way out.
On July 21, Nathan Kaufness, a researcher at Ghent University, wrote an expose on his personal Substack accusing Arday of plagiarism in his 2015 PhD thesis. That same thesis was cleared of plagiarism in 2025 by Liverpool John Moore University, the institution where Arday completed his PhD. Kaufness still claimed that Arday copied passages of other people's work word for word without referencing the original writer. He would also cast doubt on parts of Arday's personal life story. The story would gain traction in the press. Kaufness is a self-proclaimed race realist.
One of the points I make is that you don't understand what would happen if we actually had a colorblind meritocracy where representation of certain groups, such as African Americans, would be decimated.
Cambridge University defended Arday at the time, relying on the LJMU investigation. But the story had already gone out of hand that the institution decided to launch its own investigation into his appointment. Arday would resign on August 5. And over the following 9 days until his death, the media would dissect every part of his life. 249 articles, 188 of them in just 9 days, according to newscore.org. From mainstream media to right-leaning publications and even self-proclaimed leftist media. And in just 22 days, what began as an allegation of plagiarism had become a national debate over race, DEI, academic standards, and the treatment of Black academics. The atmosphere here is one of mourning, but also deep anger at the media for its participation in what they call nothing less than a witch hunt. A question we've been hearing for the past several days is, was it worth it? This is not the first time a Cambridge University professor was accused of plagiarism. William O'Reilly was reported by his students in 2021 for copying his work, and after a 2-year investigation, Cambridge ruled it negligence. His story never made local headlines, let alone the global news cycle. The organizers keep reminding everybody this is a visual, not a protest, but they're also asking, until when?
All right. We heard from Al Jazeera. Now, he talked about a colorblind meritocracy. And I looked it up because, I had never heard that before. And it says here, colorblind meritocracy is the principle that institutions should evaluate individuals solely on their skills and character while ignoring race. Proponents view it as the ultimate standard for fairness, while critics argue that it ignores historical disadvantage and structural biases, making true equity unachievable without race-conscious measures. And he claims, but I've said it, if his little mousy tail had to go up with someone with the same, I mean, everything being the same, if he had to, he was going to lose every time. He understands and he knows this. This is why the racism and the bigotry comes up out of him. So what does he do? He goes to his little Substack and he puts a little information out, and he allowed the media to hound this man. And also, this is a commentary on the media. Because again, shout out to Al Jazeera. They pointed out that Cambridge had another professor that was reported for plagiarism, and it found out to be negligence. But did you hear the UK media talk about this man? Absolutely not. Matter of fact, he wasn't even mentioned, because what did they do? They handled it in-house. You never heard the light of day. Because let me be very clear with y'all. Plagiarism goes on every day. And one of the things that I do know about that is why it's so important to cite your sources, right? But I also I've seen someone accused of plagiarism, and it was because, are we talking back in the day? Because you know how you have to put the little number so that you can, go back to the bibliography to cite your source. And there was an error. You could see that there was how you number something 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can tell that they did 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, or 1, 2, 3, and then they forgot. Well, anyway, they forgot to put that little 4 in there, and they were accused of plagiarizing. Now, what happened? They were allowed to go back and restructure their work and put it together. Same thing could have happened with this man. What would the ultimate conclusion of this should not have happened? The worst thing that should have happened is that a thorough investigation would have been had, and either he had to rework his work or they were going to let him go. Any and everybody can come back from that. I think it's so very important. This story struck me from its beginning until its ultimate conclusion. That, first of all, it's a commentary on a lot of different things. It's a commentary on racism and bigotry hiding behind academic fairness. It's a commentary on the media showing their biases and prejudices hiding behind journalistic ethics. It's also about his community that should have been much louder for him. So much louder for him. Because I hear people that he had friends that were MPs. He had friends in high places. They should have been much more louder than at a visual. And it just could be, this is not a condemnation of the melanated people over in the UK, because everyone's experiences are different. I understand that a majority of the folks that are melanated that come to the UK are immigrants. And I understand sometimes things, they rather focus on their immigration status than focus on any other thing. But still, he's part of your community. And he deserved to have been able to, he deserved to have been able to stand on your backs. And if he couldn't stand on your backs, and if he felt his legs were weak, you all were supposed to be there with your hands outstretched to hold him up. It's also a condemnation on the world. Because we've allowed the UK to stand behind this stiff upper lip, knowing that the UK and Europe are the birthplace of all of this racism, racial divide, and all of that. "37-year-old man gone, just gone, just gone. For whatever you thought, just a 37-year-old man just gone. Because again, every system failed him. So rest in peace, Jason Arday. I hope that you are where you are soaring high. His UK family, make sure that you are uplifting his family and giving them hugs and helping them to get justice. Because that is the thing that's most important. Don't let the little mousy men win. All right, people. That's all I got. Tell me, what do you think about this story? What do you think about this little mousy man? And what do you think about a life cut too short? Because systems failed him. We do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye-bye.